morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of voice of radio. So today, we need to talk about Gengar VMAX. Now, we've known Gengar is coming for quite some time. We had the Gengar and Inteleon decks revealed months ago, and basically, we've just been sitting here waiting patiently for Pokemon to finally decide that today is the day that they are actually going to tell us all about these cards. They're going to reveal them. They're going to show us. Well, good news, ladies and gentlemen, because today is that day. And I, for one, am a little bit excited. Now, our translation here does come from the lovely Antoine Boulet. You probably knew that by now. We might as well start off with Gengar V, because we do, of course, have a V and a VMAX here. We do sometimes see the VMAXs without, but it's kind of mean. We don't like it. 210 HP is incredibly standard. Retreat cost of 2 is fine. It means free retreat of air balloon, so that's all well and good. And weakness to fighting, it's not good. And honestly, the main reason I don't like weakness to fighting is because, well, we've got Galarian Zapdos. And Galarian Zapdos' attack is reduced by 1 colourless energy for each Pokemon V that you've got in play. So as soon as you've got 3 Pokemon V down, it attacks for a single energy. And it easily gets a 1-hit KO. 170 is a lot of damage. So people can counter really easily using Galarian Zapdos, and that makes me just a little bit sad. And you are a Darkness Pokemon, which actually means you're hitting weakness on Shadow Rider Calyrex, which is genuinely really, really cool, because that thing is looking like it is going to be an absolute beast moving forward. And while we're here, this is actually the very first Darkness-type Gengar we've ever seen, since we moved Poison-type into Darkness at the beginning of the Sword and Shield block. We haven't actually had a Gengar released that wasn't Psychic-type. We had one in Sword and Shield that was later reprinted as a promo, both of which were Psychic-type. But now we've got a legitimate Darkness-type Gengar, so if you were ever wanting a Darkness-type Gengar, great news, ladies and gentlemen. Great news. But what does it actually do? I should mention it's a single strike Pokemon. We'll double back on that in a moment. First attack, 2 Darkness Energy, 40 damage, plus Sleep. Is this enough? I'm not sure this is enough. 2 energy, 40 damage, plus Sleep? That seems misery. The annoying thing is that up until the rotation, we're going to have Slumbering Forest, which forces your opponent to flip heads twice if they want to wake up from sleep. But the bad news is that we're going to lose that a couple of days after this set comes out. Now, the good news is Single Strike Energy will actually work as Darkness and Fighting, which is perfect because it will pay for Gengar's attacks. And of course, that means that you can use Houndoom to accelerate Single Strike Energy and turn this into a pseudo single energy attack. But Houndoom's a stage 1, so it's awkward to get out, at least super early in the game. So if you go second on your first turn, you can either use Mustard to get Houndoom out, possible but super awkward. Basically, you got to have Mustard as the only card in your hand and play it as your supporter for the turn. Doable. Remember, single strike plays from the deck, so you don't have to discard it. So it's doable but awkward. Or you've got to hit heads on a turbo patch. It's after getting an energy in the discard. And I'm sorry, but if I'm playing a basic Pokemon V and I'm really looking to VMAX it up, I want a single energy attack to get me rolling nice and early in the game, and Gengar V has not got my back. Now, for free Darkness Energy, you do 190 plus 30 to yourself. It's alright. It's not great. It's a little bit meh. Again, Houndoom will work, and you can use 2 Houndoom to accelerate 2 energy, and then attach from your hand, and then you're off and rolling. And it's not actually at that stage doing 190, it's doing 230, and 230 is absolutely crucial, because 230 is pretty much the upper, except for a few silly big ones, it's pretty much the upper echelon of Pokemon Vs. You know, Zamazenta's sitting there at 230, and Zamazenta's super important here, because Zamazenta will block your VMAX, and yeah, I know you can use Phoebe to get through it, but why bother using Phoebe when you could just get a one-hit KO on Gengar? The problem is, every time you use Houndoom, you've got to put 2 damage counters on Gengar. So if I use Houndoom twice and then Pain Burst, I'm doing 70 damage to myself, which brings me down to 140, bearing in mind to give up 2 prizes. I am not okay with that. I don't mind this second attack purely because Houndoom is a thing and Single Strike Energy is a thing. And if you double Houndoom, you're getting a one-hit KO on pretty much any Pokemon V. Not to mention you're getting a one-hit KO on Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. And actually at that stage, it is a legitimate attack that we can take seriously and be moderately excited about. But I still don't think it's a great attack. I think it's a handy bonus that will work here and there. So let's take a look at a VMAX and see if it can be better, and oh my goodness, it can. 320 HP we're going up to, which is honestly like standard. It's exactly what we expect. But then we've got a retreat cost of 3, which is actually really annoying to me. You don't get free retreat with Air Balloon, so boo hiss, etc. Same annoying weakness to fighting, same issue with Galarian Zapdos, same darkness typing, and obviously still a single strike Pokemon. But we have one attack here, which is really, really, really good. I love this first attack. For 2 darkness energy, you do 60 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon V and GX in play. Now, this is slightly confusing to me because, like I've said, when this releases, it's pretty much when we rotate. Although, to be fair, Japan does tend to rotate a little bit later, so maybe that explains it. And if we really wanted to go further, we could just refer to Rule Box Pokemon, but we're not. It'll be relevant in Expanded, but I do find it extremely weird that it specifically refers to GXs and Vs, when really the GX part is going to be largely irrelevant. But this is good. It means that against some decks, you've got a great built-in counter. It's a kind of thing where your opponent is going to be terrified of this in certain matchups. I mean, I hate to keep beating up on it, although to be fair, no matter how many times we try and say it's not going to be good, it just keeps winning. Eternatus VMAX. Because, of course, they need to use Eternatus, and remember that VMAXs do count as Vs, in the same way that tag teams do count as GXs. And what we basically do here is we also use Crobat to accelerate and get a bunch of cards and all of that. So, between Crobat and Eternatus, they're probably going to have a bunch out, and oh look, now you go nuts. There are a bunch of decks out there like Zacian ADP, and yes, I know ADP's rotating, it's just an example, that pretty much entirely only play Vs and GXs. And don't get me wrong, this attack is going to be played around a bunch, but I think the thing that makes me really excited about this is that if your opponent plays around it, they're hurting themselves. Because they're not benching Pokemon that they want to bench. They're essentially going, ha ha ha, I'm not going to bench this Pokemon because if I bench it, you're going to do more damage. I'm going to stop your damage output by not benching this Pokemon that I want to bench. And that's when you start winning. When your opponent is deliberately not doing stuff that they would want to do to try and slow you down, that's a win for you. Like, if your opponent's not playing a Crobat for fear of you getting KOs, well, they're also not drawing until they've got 6 cards in their hand this turn, they're going to have a slower start to the game. If they're not playing Kricketune for fear of the extra 60 damage, then they don't get to draw until they've got 3 cards in their hand every turn. Over the course of the game, how many fewer cards are they going to have? How many fewer options are they going to have? Are they going to not bench a backup attacker and end up falling into the trap where they actually run out of attackers because they tried to stop you doing more damage? And that's the thing here. There are going to be some decks where you just naturally don't do enough damage, and that's going to be a little bit sad. But there are going to be plenty of times where you are going to be able to absolutely smash with this attack, and I absolutely love it. I don't know if you can play Gengar by itself for that reason. I think it's a little bit awkward, because if you're playing against a non-V deck, this attack actually does 0, but I still do kind of like it. But what if you are playing against a non-V deck? Well, how about Max Engulf? 3 Darkness Energy, 250 damage, this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. Okay, this seems like a really good partner attack. Because actually, if your opponent's got 4 Pokemon V in play, then you're doing 240. Maxing Golf does 250. So you can essentially just hit with Maxing Golf for 250, 250, 250, 250, and if your opponent ever puts a 5th or 6th Pokemon V or GX in play, you get to go nuts with Panic Fear. I should mention that Morile is rotating, which is genuinely sad, because Morile lets you look at your opponent's hand and force Pokemon onto the bench, and unfortunately you're not going to have the option of doing that. This is a deck that would love Morile. But free energy 250 is kind of nice. Now I know that Victini does 2 energy 220 to Pokemon Vs, but firstly, this will get some of those bigger, more annoying Pokemon Vs, and secondly, this will get those bigger, annoying single prize Pokemon. Or anything else that is printed in the future that isn't a Pokemon V or VMAX. Because presumably at some point we're going to go away from Vs and VMAXs, at which point Victini is going to be a much less impressive card. Incidentally, the first attack of this will also be much less impressive, but the second attack will stay around. And we've still got Houndoom to accelerate energy, so we can get this rolling nice and quickly. No, you're not one-hit KOing VMAXs, but who does? Like, seriously. Rapid Strike Urshifu hits either 150 to the active or 120 to 2 Pokemon. They're not getting one-hit KOs. Eternatus with a full bench hits 270. This is only 20 less, and it is a darn sight easier to get rolling. Okay, it is a third energy, but Houndoom makes me feel so much better about that. These VMAXs don't one-hit KO. Inteleon's pretty good, and the most damage Inteleon can do is 160. Now, it also does 60 to the bench, and over time that builds up, but not getting a one-hit KO here isn't a big problem. Essentially, you're playing the 2-hit KO game like everybody else is, but you're also having that potential for, firstly, big damage, and secondly, punishing Vs and GXs and making your opponent play in a suboptimal way, and that's a good thing for you. That's a very good thing for you. Now, as for the fact that you can't attack next turn, I mean, nobody cares. Zacian's been the best Pokemon pretty much since it came out, and that can't attack next turn, and no one's cared about that. Play a bunch of switching cards, you'll be fine. The weakness terrifies me, and the fact that Galarian Zapdos can be added into so many decks as a pretty hard counter terrifies me, but I really like Gengar VMAX. I'm giving it between 4 and 5 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. Maybe I'm just overly excitable, I don't know, but this strikes me as a very good Pokemon. And the fact that it's single strike, and that's the other thing I haven't really mentioned. I'm talking about accelerating energy with Houndoom, but let's make it super explicit. Single strike energy does more damage. And you can play this with Emboar, which does more damage. And you can use the supporter card Karen or Double Iris, 20 more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken, and that will do more damage. And if your opponent's taken a couple of prizes and you play Karen, or if you've got Emboar down, or you start piling on single strike energy, sure, you're sitting at 250 for now, and I've done most of this video looking at it as a Pokemon that hits 250, but make no mistake about it, later in the game, not early game, but later in the game, you can be one-hit KOing VMAXs. If you get 2 single strike energy, you're only doing 290, you're still not there, but 2 single strike energy plus an Emboar is 320, and that'll get most Pokemon VMAXs. Or if your opponent has taken 3 prize cards, and you've got 1 single strike energy on, you're hitting 330, and that is a whole bunch different. So, yes, I've mostly looked at Gengar here as a very good Pokemon that 2-hit KOs and can punish, but make no mistake about it, if you start playing around with these single strike tricks, you can be one-hit KOing VMAXs, and as I've said, most of those VMAXs will not be one-hit KOing you. I think Gengar VMAX is one that we should be taking very, very seriously indeed. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/TheWassie. patreon.com/PTCGradio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.